Hey, 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 everyone. It's Sleepy Reader. Can't even say my own name. 666 if you want to be exact, but I usually just think of myself as Sleepy Reader. Um, and I'm also known as Damien, and this is my usually weekly comic book countdown, which is weekly. I did right on time this time. And I have read 11 of the brand new comics I got on Wednesday, March 2nd, I think, and it's now March 8th. Does that make sense? Yeah, 6 days ago. Um, and I'm going to rank them from 11 down to 1 based on how much I enjoyed them. I was thinking a little bit about the purposes of fiction. I think I was listening to a interview with a movie director, and something he said made me think about, like, do we why do we care about fiction at all? What's important about fiction in our lives? And one big answer is just to escape, to get away from it, to not worry about our everyday problems, which, have their mundane little solutions or lack of solutions, that we just live with what's going on. And or do we use fiction to try out different solutions to our problems, or do we use fiction to live many lives, because our each individual life is a tiny thing, we can only experience so much, but through fiction, or actually probably through memoirs and other things, but through fiction we can experience all kinds of things, like with science fiction stuff that is never going to happen in our lifetime, if ever. We can still kind of experience it. So I don't think there's any one answer to the uses of fiction, but that was in my head. I think also someone's comment on an old video of mine made me go back and actually watch the video to try to figure out what they were responding to. And in that video, although it wasn't what they were talking about, I talked about the morality of being a writer of fiction, and nonfiction, and making the creator, having to make choices about that morality. I'm I'm a bit overly what's the word? Overly righteous about the idea that fiction should have some kind of morality to it. Not maybe always in an obvious way, but in some intent or understanding on the part of the creator of the morals, the moral possibilities of their fiction, the ways it can be taken and used. Anyway, I'm not really going deep into those things. They were just floating around in my head, but they aren't too. I don't even know whether I'll bring them up at all with these comics. But a comic that came in at number 11 for me was Strange, the I guess basically sequel to The Death of Doctor Strange, at the end of which we ended with Clea, Doctor Strange's one-time lover. Did they actually marry? I don't. I feel like in this she says she's Mrs. Strange, and maybe that's why it's called Strange. I'm not sure. But she is now, after the results of the death of Doctor Strange, she is left in charge of the magic in our world as the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. Or is it of our whole dimension? That's never quite clear to me. Anyway, this was a pretty disappointing read. There were some good parts I enjoyed, and there were a lot of good ideas. Her confrontation with Doctor Doom was interesting, but it wasn't. In retrospect, after reading the whole comic, there wasn't as much to it as there could have been. So this writer, Jed MacKay, after I really enjoyed the Death of Doctor Strange, and I heard other good things about work he's doing elsewhere, like on Moonlight, I thought he's one of Marvel's new current good writers. But my faith was a bit shaken by this. The writing seemed shaky. Maybe it was rooted in the art, which just seemed like this artist just seemed like a really bad choice for art in a story like this about magic. And perhaps there's questions here about the morality of how her view of how to handle bad guys and good and evil. as opposed to what might be the Earth norm or the way that people are used to Doctor Strange doing it. Um, anyway, maybe my expectations were too high or whatever, but I think this will become something I wait and read in Marvel Unlimited. If I even remember to read it. That's the problem with Marvel Unlimited. In at number 10 was another one where my expectations perhaps were a little off. Hellcop number, where's the number? Issue 5 is the end of the story. Now, maybe there's going to be more Hellcop stories, but they wrapped everything up. And I think this is a really cool cover, actually. I love the colors and the image of the pigs flying. But they wrapped it up all so quickly, and it just seemed way too easy, and I actually didn't follow exactly why they knew to do what they did, and how they sort of had figured out all of the machinations going on here. There still were some cool bits, and I'm still like, okay, I'm sort of used to this weird artwork, but it still sort of shocks me each time I look at it for the first time as I start reading an issue. Anyway, it wrapped up. I'm not unhappy that I read it, but I'm not sure if now I want to continue reading more if they do more. In at number, what number are we at now? Number 9 is Men Are Black. Something, I don't know. It just didn't feel. I generally have good feelings about Men Are Black. Love this cover, fantastic cover. Love the artwork inside, although a large percentage of it was just kind of talking heads, I guess. So it didn't put the color team, the art and color team, to much of a challenge, you might say. And a lot of it was this black and white. But here we've got this black and white kind of talking heads, and then we go into the present and we're talking heads. And I had a little bit of trouble remembering who all the characters were, or if they had already been introduced, or if this was the first time they were introduced, and their significance. Some of it I could track, but not all of it. And it was kind of interesting to see the character who's now the old bearded character as a young man in the flashbacks. And there's his old bearded father, kind of in the role that he later takes on when we see him later in the game. I'm definitely sticking with this one. I want to see where it will go, but this issue just seemed like a flat one. It also strikes me, given that if this pattern continues, that they're just going to do this story in 4-issue chunks and then a large gap till you get more, they should put more in per issue. It shouldn't just, the story shouldn't just inch forward so slowly in a way. I mean, that's me interfering with their artistic choices, but from a reader's point of view, if you're only going to get a few issues and then a long gap, put more story in each issue. But I think the main thing is Colin Bunn, at his worst, in a sense, just doesn't want to give away enough to the audience for the audience to follow everything, and there was a bit of that in here. In at number, what would this be? Number 8, The Thing. It's gotten better the last 2 issues from the first 3 issues. We're on issue 5, and I think there's just one more issue. But here's an argument for just reading Marvel digitally, because look at that. Look at all those finger smudges. I don't think I had wet hands or anything while I read this, but the whole thing smudged up. That's just always where I'm holding my comic when I'm reading, and I think I probably put down the comic and picked it up a couple of times. I enjoyed this. Some of the stuff that happened on the moon and with all the different characters who appeared was fun. I feel like maybe the artist is improving. I still think with The Thing, you ought to use an artist who gives the character sort of a sense of weight and bulk and mass. And this thing is just too sort of airy and light, and this artist is just not an ideal kind of superhero artist. Maybe in a comic where you were taking superheroes in a more indie direction, he would be, I think it's a better choice. The artist is Tom Riley. I don't know if I've seen him somewhere else or not. But there was some cool stuff in the art, and there were some sort of fun fights, fun coloring, and kind of a fun revelation. I don't want to give that revelation away, but the weird thing is that revelation, and this is the 5th out of 6 issues, changes my whole notion of what the plot is. In fact, until this point, there really didn't seem to be a plot. And suddenly there is a plot, and it only comes towards the end of issue 5. So I feel like that was unfortunate. But it was a fun ride. It has earlier, like I said, felt kind of aimless. So it felt like things were just happening for no particular reason. But maybe we will learn all the reasons in issue 6, and I will feel better about it all. So there you go with that. The Wrong Earth Trapped on Teen Planet. This is right up my alley because I am right now enjoying spoofs of superheroes quite a bit. And I'm enjoying reading comics aimed at younger kids. So, I have been dipping into a bunch of different things, such as Harvey Comics and the like. And this one, after we leave our Batman, I think it's a Batman 66 world, we enter, well, we got this weird thing with, this is the guy who writes the captions, I think, supposedly. Anyway, we enter a Archie world, and that's a lot of fun. They get, what's his name? Bill Morrison, I believe. Yeah, Bill Morrison, who did a lot of the art and writing for Bongo Comics, for the comics about The Simpsons. Particularly, I remember him doing the Radioactive Man comics. And now we've got him recreating a kind of classic Archie world. And the fun part about this was that Dragonfly Man turns out to be a huge Archie fan, or the substitute for Archie, that whatever this is called. And so he knows all the characters, he knows everything that's going on, and he doesn't want to leave this world. And this was written by Gail Simone, but so I would have ranked this higher, except Gail Simone does these odd jumps where I guess she's thinking in her head, well, you know how these plots go, so I don't need to tell you, and we'll just skip over that, and we'll just skip over this, and it felt herky-jerky and kind of lazy to me. But other than that, I had a fun time with it, and I was kind of a bit unconvinced when Dragonfly Man changed his mind on the idea that he just wanted to stay in this world, right? That would be his happy place, to be in the world of Archie. Anyway, this, I guess, is the first of a series of one-shots where different writers are going to take on the Wrong Earth world, and I'm looking forward to more. This was fun enough. I haven't been super impressed by the occasional Gail Simone script I've read since her work on Batgirl. And here she almost got her mojo back, but then she got kind of lazy too. I don't know. That's my assumption in my head. And maybe that was a bit of, what is fiction for? Where this is actually Dragonfly, who is now pretending to be Dragonfly Man in the lighter Batman 66 world. So he comes from the Ultra Grim world, and then they get transported into this even lighter world, and he just wants to stay. And it's just like, fiction was his relief. The world of the Archie teenagers was his escape from his unpleasant childhood. Speaking of escape, I'm putting in at number 6, Everything Sucks. I'm thinking it's a one-shot. I'm wondering if it's based on a webcomic or something. I don't know. Probably people who are really cool and know all the, really alternative indie comic creators already know this one. It's someone named Michael Sweater. And it's about a couple of stoners hanging out and on the quest for junk food. And it's amusing enough, and I really enjoyed the colors, and it has wonderful thick paper. And I think, if anything, the antics of these stoner super slackers just could be amped up a little more, be a little more over the top. It was so low key. Or if it's going to be so low key, maybe make the story shorter. There's one main story here that goes on for quite a while in their quest. Oh, I love that double page spread though. In their quest for hamburgers. And even though I guess we're told they're kind of dopers, they don't seem to be, I don't know, maybe they are smoking pot constantly here. I don't know. But they don't seem to be that stoned or that out of it. They just seem to be, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I just felt like it should have been more, but shorter stories, like a larger group of shorter stories. And I think, most of all, my time of life is over. When I was 20, I found already kind of old, what were they called? The Furry Freak Brothers. And of course there was Cheech and Chong movies and things like that. And this is the equivalent for a generation past me. It was enjoyable enough. And if another issue comes out and I see it on the shelves, and if I don't have enough to read or just am in the mood, I might pick up more. But I also am fine with this having been the only issue I read. They have this pull-out poster in the middle if you want to buy 2 copies and hang one up on your wall. I think this is another poster on the other side. I wish I'd never got online. I'm not sure what that's about. Just the escape from being online, I guess, lying in the leaves. And then at the back, there's some shorter strips. Oops. I don't know if those are were originally published somewhere else or were published online. There's only one of the characters in those original strips, and he talking to his cat, which is interesting because I think that the female character may be a cat in the main story. One of the funny things is when this female character might be a cat there. I'm not sure. Her. Whoops. Right there. She may be a cat. I don't know. But speaking of anthropomorphic things, one of my favorite just little passing things is, here is an anthropomorphic dog walking her dog, and they look almost identical. Thought that was funny. So in the back, there's stickers. It's a nice little package. It, of course, cost a little more, $6. But I thought they gave you value for your money. So if anyone knows any more background on Michael Sweeter and Everything Sucks, feel free to let me know. In at number 5, kind of a surprise for me, was Star Squadron. I almost didn't buy this. I found the first 3 issues so depressing, just too close to reality. So, why do we read fiction? To escape reality or to try to deal with reality in some way? This makes you feel like reality is going to defeat you. But there was something about this issue that made me enjoy it more, and I was surprised I even picked it up. I just went ahead and picked it up. I wasn't quite sure why, because I told myself I wouldn't. And I kind of enjoyed it. I liked there near the end was kind of a interesting twist. After Red Tornado makes his decision on what he's going to do, then a twist comes along that kind of changes everything after he's already made up his mind. And somehow that interested me. And but this is so close to the reality of the horrors of sort of employment and corporate life that there's just, doesn't even feel almost like a satire, or a satire that's just so close to reality. I suppose it's a bit like watching the original British version of The Office or something like that. Then pretty much all escapism, Cowboy Bebop #2. I hate that cover. I think I hated the cover of the first one too. But I really like the interior art. And the first issue had an sort of typical Cowboy Bebop setup that was interesting enough. But we get a more interesting twist on the story as they are chasing down this bit of technology they need, and they go to this planet that has supposedly failed to be terraformed. Turns out it's fine, only there's something in the air that basically makes you stoned all the time. And so you're totally happy with life and you really don't care about the consequences of stuff. And that made for a really cool backdrop, and the decision of whether to stay on a planet like that once you're there and the air starts affecting you was kind of cool. And also what this issue sets up for what they have to get in the next issue to get that bit of technology they need, I thought was very cool. And I still am enjoying the art and color a lot. So much to my surprise, because this was also kind of like One Star Squadron, I kind of picked it up almost thinking maybe I shouldn't have done that. I was very happy with picking up Cowboy Bebop. I put this in at #4. I'll definitely be getting the 3rd issue. Dan Waters, the writer, has done a lot of good work in the past. Still waiting on his picture of everything else to come out with some more issues. But so that's a pleasant surprise. I put in at #3 Newburn, and I almost moved it down. I'm a little undecided how I feel about this issue. It's very noir. It's very cynical about the world. It's got that concept of, everything is corrupt, and it's a one-shot. I love the idea of the one-shot story. And I've liked all along the narrative mode, somehow the tone, the point of view that Newburn takes. It maybe came a little closer to making me worry about reality, because this time he gets hired by the police, and both the police themselves and Newburn and the writer of the comic, Chip Zdarsky, make explicit that the police are a mob. They are a criminal organization equal to the other mobs, or perhaps superior to the other mobs, because they have a lot more impunity to do their killing and get away with things, and they don't have to be careful like the other mobs do. And he literally says that explicitly. Now, is that true about the New York, specifically talking about the New York Police Department and their union? Is that true about them? I don't know. I really don't know. Does Chip Zdarsky know, or is that just what he imagines? Is that something he's putting out there in the world without enough evidence, or maybe he has enough evidence? I mean, it's fiction, right? But it's talking about the New York Police Department. Anyway, I enjoyed it, but I felt like there was a bit of a cheat. So basically, he resolves his problem of what to do because he works for the mob, and they'll kill him if he betrays them. And now he's got the police on his back. And basically, I think through some kind of, I don't want to give it away, through some kind of technology fix, we're discovering some information. He uses that to get out of the situation he's in. But that information is found just off panel, presumably by his assistant, but it's never even stated explicitly. So it just seems like I presume that she got him this information that saves the day. But how she got it, it just seems like they left that bit out. And that seemed like a bit of a cheat. Like, we don't really know how they solved this problem, but we'll just say they did. But it was an interesting situation, interesting setup, and I'm excited for more Newburn. I did sort of suspect, in my imagination anyway, the art looked a bit more rushed than in the first 3 issues. Like maybe they did that first 3-issue arc to see whether the series would be popular. And since it is, they're doing more. And so they may have to hurry up and put it out. I still enjoyed the art and the color, which Jacob Phillips does both. But I just sensed a slight, I don't know, it seemed a little less on target to me. Just a touch. Speaking of art being on target and coloring being on target, I loved the art and coloring in Radio Spaceman. It was kind of hyped as this big return of Mike Mignola, but he only does the writing and the cover. He does not do the interior art, and some people probably were longing for some more Mike Mignola art, and that would have been great. Instead, he hired artist Greg Hinkle to work on it with him. And there's the typical brown, right? That we have too much brown in modern comics. Okay, camera, focus. Does that help? Why doesn't the camera want to focus? Is it because there's too much brown? But overall, despite this early sort of just huge blanket of brown over everything, I thought that this was particularly strong coloring by Dave Stewart, who sometimes just does his typical Dave Stewart coloring job, but I thought here he brought a lot of zing to the pulpiness. I think the whole point of this is just sort of gonzo pulp. You've got some kind of old school mad scientist who can plug this thing into his chest, and then he's connected to the radio astronaut, who I guess I'm thinking is actually a corpse inside a roboticized astronaut spacesuit, but I'm not sure, and I imagine we'll never have that explained. And he heads off to rescue someone on a wild and crazy pulp fiction kind of planet. Pulp fiction in the sense of science fiction pulp, where there are a bunch of different strange alien civilizations and people who want to sacrifice other humans to their eldritch gods and stuff. So there's not a whole lot of dialogue. It's just a lot of crazy imagery and some sci-fi fighting and the like. Some big monsters. It's very simple, but I really enjoyed it. I think Greg Hinkle's art is excellent. I think he and Dave Stewart work together really, really well. I don't know how much, I guess we'll probably never know how much direction Mignola gave to his art team, since he is, a fantastic artist himself. I do wonder if this is a lot of drawing to do, and if Mignola is kind of lazy at this point. I mean, the last stuff I saw by him was in Hell, where things are just, there's not a lot of detail, not a lot of different things to draw. But that's purely speculation on my part. So this is just total escapism. If the purpose of fiction is escapism, then this is perfectly good. So that was my number 2 book of the week. And my number 1 book of the week was also very much escapism, and that was Dark Knights of Steel by Tom Taylor and fantastic artist Putri. What's her first name? Look at this, though. Look at this text they use here to give the credits. It's really unreadable. Yasmin Putri. Yasmin Putri is the artist. And Arif Prianto is the color artist. And they definitely work together to create this painted fairy tale world, medieval fantasy world inhabited by variations on all our familiar DC characters: Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Supergirl, Superman, and Batman and the rest, Wonder Woman. And so this issue, what is it? Issue number 5? Yeah, issue number 5 of 12. It's of a piece of everything we've got before, and it's wonderful. And the whole of everything we've gotten so far is wonderful. And it just, the further we get into the story, the more you're saying, you kind of breathing a sigh of relief as someone who reads too many comics like me that they might screw it up. Instead, they seem to really be in control of their material and this crazy alternate world they've come up with. And there's interesting twists and revelations and very good characterizations and great sort of comic book timing. I would say comic book storytelling, comic book pacing, timing, whatever have you. I think a long while ago I used to talk about comics that seem to have the right rhythm to them, like a song that's in the groove. Some comics were in the groove. Some comics writers or artists seem to particularly be good at getting in the groove, and this team is in the groove. And I don't want to go too far, and there's a really cool twist that comes up that I don't want to reveal. But this is just a pleasure to read, and so I've heard other people already say they're bummed this is only 12 issues, and I feel that way. But it might be really a good thing if they do 12 issues, come out with a nice hardback, I hope, so there's no gutter loss on this beautiful artwork, and then maybe do another 12-issue series and give the artists plenty of time to do this wonderful work. That said, this was probably a week of good, but not ultimately. I mean, this is a really good comic, but maybe it's, compared to some of the best comics that come out month by month, it's still, in the lower ranks of the best comics. It was, for me, a week that was a bit slower, partially because there's more and more books that I need to catch up on my reading. For instance, Adventure Man came out this week, and I didn't get to read that. Arkham City Nights, I think. I've only read issue 1, but I've kept buying all the issues. I think there were some other things. And then there's Nice House by the Lake, which probably, I'm guessing, was the best book of the week. But I did not read it because after issue 3, I dropped it. When I heard they were going to take a 6-month hiatus in the middle, I thought I would just trade wait, since it was kind of complicated and hard to keep track of all the characters anyway. Now they seem to have come back a little quicker than that, but it's still probably wise of me to trade wait. I'm kind of tempted now to see if I can catch up and buy the issues I didn't get and read that. It's always craving more good comics. Whoops. But, yeah, good week. I don't know what the purpose of fiction is. You know what? I do lean most heavily into that feeling that life is, my own life or most other people's lives are limited, and fiction makes our lives feel much bigger and wider. We can live in our brains many lives and many experiences, at least in a shallow sort of way, with some fun escapism. So anyway, I hope you all had a great comics reading week, and I will be back talking comic books with you sooner than later. Bye-bye.